All right. Okay, so crossing the legs with the less dominant cross-legged position. Just take some time to adjust so that you feel some nice energy moving up the spine. You feel connected with the floor. You feel your chest is starting to open and lift. And when you feel like you have that, then go ahead and join the hands. Look away from the brain toward your cheeks with eyes closed. And just kind of tune into the radio station of you. I'm trying to kind of listen for clarity, the physical body, the thoughts, the emotions, the breath. And just take note of how you're starting your practice today. Acknowledge that, give it some space, don't push it away if it's not your favorite thing. Just kind of let yourself show up exactly as you are. Maybe listening also for some intention or context for this practice. Maybe it's one of the words that I offer, the positivity and the energy that our backbends can bring. Maybe it's something else. And then joining the head and the heart by bowing softly. Releasing your hands. When you're ready, lift your head, let your eyes gently open. And welcome. Right. So we're going to stay pretty low to the ground today for a lot of our back bends. I don't think we're actually standing up today. And we're going to begin just reclining back on 2 blocks. And we're going to take a straight leg approach. Sometimes we do it with cross legs. But you're going to have to kind of figure out your appropriate height for those blocks. I did so much yard work over the weekend that my back is really not ready for a lot of back bending just yet. So I'm coming in really low with my blocks. And one is for the head, one is for the upper back between the shoulder blades. You're just going to kind of use your thumbs maybe and help yourself recline back on that first block. And then make sure that the block for your head is high enough that you're not feeling like your head is falling toward the floor. You want to feel kind of level with the chin and the forehead. And then you can just kind of take your Shavasana legs and let your backs of your hands rest on the floor, just also like Shavasana, where they're separated a little bit from the torso. So we're starting off with a few more kind of passive back bends. And sometimes the body is more responsive to passive opening opportunities, especially early on in a practice, than it is to more active opening postures. So just let gravity and those blocks kind of do the work here. And you might notice you're resisting against those blocks. Your body might not quite be ready to melt into those blocks. So just let yourself, breath by breath, become a little heavier. Feel how the block naturally moves the shoulder blades toward the chest to keep the chest lifted. You shouldn't have to do a lot with your pelvic tilt here. We'll just take 5 breaths. And as you breathe in, don't let the belly expand above the line of the lowest ribs. So rather think about your belly kind of spreading up toward the chest rather than poofing toward the ceiling. Just so we're really starting to get some good breaths coming in. This is a great way to start to welcome yourself into your practice. Just kind of bringing the breath up the body into the chest, making sure the breath is expanding as well as extending. Maybe visualize the full circumference of your breath from the back ribs to the front ribs. We also get a natural external shoulder rotation, which is really key to many of our back bends. Just feel the flesh of the inner shoulders moving toward the outer shoulders and toward the backs of the shoulders. Emptying your next breath out. You're going to come out by bending your knees and just kind of help yourself to either side. And we're going to be turning over and doing a one-arm heart chakra pose. You may or may not need a block for your head. Sometimes putting the head on the floor feels really far away. So you might keep one close by on your mat. We're going to be taking the knees right under the hips. So don't be in child's pose. Have your hips right over your knees. One arm, let's say it's the left arm here, is going to extend forward. And then the right arm could be for your forehead, or if you're using a block, just the right arm crosses in front of the chest. This takes a little pressure off the shoulders. When we have both arms extended, it can be a little intense, especially this early in the practice. So again, we're kind of being more passive here. We're letting gravity sink the shoulder blades toward the chest. Every time you exhale, you're going to feel that kind of deepening action. Keep that one extended arm pretty active, like you're in child's pose or downward dog, that same arm. Try to open up the extended armpit. Bring a little attention and breath to the extended arm, left arm armpit. And then you're gently going to switch so that right arm now is extended, left arm is crossing in front of you, either resting the head on that arm or on the block. I'm just kind of sensing into the right armpit area, the right armpit chest. A lot of times we're pretty congested in these areas. So just bringing breath and attention. And then as you're ready, you're going to just kind of start to move out of Anatasana, heart chakra pose. We're going to set up for a few prone back bends. So spread out a blanket so you're comfortable in the hips and the pelvis. We want to have enough support there that we're not annoyed with the contact of the bones against the floor. And then keep a strap available. You might make a little loop with your strap. You may not need the strap, but if you're going to need it to hold your foot eventually, you'll want a little loop with the strap so that you can easily just hold that foot. Just kind of make that set up and put it aside. And then come onto your blanket so that you bring the hips right to the edge of the blanket. And then your pelvis and thighs are also supported. And we're going to take a really generous amount of space between the feet, just to kind of remind the lower back how we want it to feel in back bends. We want this kind of neutral spaciousness. We don't want to feel pinched or congested or like we're shortening the sacral band. None of those things are what we're going for. So spread the feet to the edges of the mat and then rotate your thighs. So your inner thighs lift up, your outer thighs come down a little bit, and you're going to feel your pinkies coming to the floor, your pinky toes. And then place your elbows in line with your shoulders. And start with your palms up. Palms face up. And just kind of gently scrub your elbows toward your hips, which in turn will help your shoulder blades move toward your chest. Even though you can't see your neck, try to position your head in such a way that you don't have a crease. So it might mean you have to kind of take the head toward the floor a little bit. And then just sense the full length of the spine, starting with the tailbone all the way up to the brainstem. Just running your awareness up the spine. Try to relax your eyes, your jaw. Keep a sense of effort in the rotation of the inner thighs lifting toward the ceiling and the small toes keeping contact with the floor. And keep your pelvic tilt active, taking the tailbone into the floor. And remember the belly breathing. Try not to inflate the belly. See if you can bring the breath up to the chest and spread it out to the side walls of the rib cage. Just a few more breaths. Good. And now just go ahead and relax. You might do some windshield wipering with your legs, but you're going to bring your knees together once you've relieved your lower back, if you're doing that. And we're going to come into basically an inverted position of hero pose. So this is Backasana. It's actually frog pose. So join your knees, because in hero pose, the knees are joined. And remember, the feet go wider than the knees, so it's W, kind of a W shape. For a lot of us, we're going to need that strap because what this involves is grabbing one of your feet. So I'm going to have you cross your right forearm in front of your chest. And then you're going to bend your left knee. And if you can't reach the foot, take a little loop around the foot and connect with your foot that way. You might feel like you just became concave at your left hip flexor. So take the tailbone into the floor and try to press that hip flexor region into the floor, elongating the front thigh. It's tempting to kind of collapse into your, like a turtle, to kind of lose your neck. So keep some pressure in your forearm, your right forearm. And also notice the hip weight. We want to have even hip weight. So you have to bring extra effort to the left hip pressing down. And just a few good breaths like this. Try to angle the heel toward the outer right hip. Sorry, I meant left hip. That would be a not good thing to do. So take your left heel toward your outer left hip, just like you're in a hero pose. If you're using a strap, you can remove it now and just kind of set it aside. Go ahead and release those efforts. You might spread the knees just momentarily to sweep the legs back and forth. You might rest on your arms, just taking kind of a refreshing little interlude here before side two. So one day, not today, you grab both feet and you hold the pose that way. And there's also a rotation of the arms and wrists that happen. So this is very modified, but it is still very challenging. So we're just kind of working through some of that awkward first stage of this pose that we don't do very often in this class. All right, so once you've relieved your lower back, go ahead and step the knees together again. Crossing the left forearm in front of you so that the left elbow is right under the left shoulder. And that forearm is kind of right below your face. And then with knees joining, you're going to be bringing right foot into your hand or take the strap to the foot and grab the strap. And you'll notice once you have hold of the foot that your weight, the momentum of your weight shifts to the left. So to restore balance here, bring some weight to your right hip. You might notice your right shoulder is rotating back. Try to direct the right shoulder forward and angle your right heel toward your outer right hip. Try to press the right hip flexor into the floor. Keep the pelvic tilt nice and strong. And see if you can coil the shoulder blades in toward the chest, shooting the breastbone forward. So again, this is Bakasana, frog pose. And gently either remove the strap if you're using it or gently release your foothold, and you're going to extend your legs, separate your knees at least hip distance, make a little pillow out of your arms, and sweep the legs back and forth, refreshing the lower back. So now we're going to work with cobra pose. We're going to do 10 cobra poses up and down with the breath. So the body really likes repetition, and sometimes that's the best approach when the back is stiff. So you're going to have 2 blocks as your kind of your helpers. They're going to give you a little bit more of a boost with your cobra pose. So they're going to go right outside the hips, and not the hips, sorry, the rib cage, where your hands belong. And the lowest setting should be adequate. Should be more than sufficient. Make sure that you take the small toes down, the inner thighs up. Your knees are centered, your thighs are centered. Your elbows are going to want to flop out wide, so pin the elbows in, which moves the shoulder blades in. We're coming up on an exhalation and down on an inhale. And you're going to do your own count. It's the honor system here. You're doing 10. You can take breaks. You don't have to do it with every breath if your body's not up for that. So you're going up on the exhale. The body likes to kind of do more effortful things on exhalation. And inhale to preserve length of the spine coming down. Okay. You have to hang in the shoulders. So keep a nice amount of pressure in your blocks. Good. About halfway through. Nice. Couple more. Last one. And when you come back to the floor, you can move your blocks aside. Go back to windshield wipering, make a little pillow out of your arms. Try to give each cheek a turn as you repeat this windshield wipering throughout a practice. Make sure you're not always resting on the same cheek. Let your breath be free. And just do it long enough until your lower back feels kind of neutral again. And then when you're ready, go ahead and set up your legs again. We're going to come into locust pose. So locust pose has the exact same arms as child's pose and downward dog. And I'm going to kind of show that to you now. So make sure your legs are centered up. Start with your arms extended back and your palms facing the floor. So right now the arms are all working in one direction. They're kind of winding the outer arms up, the inner arms down. Extend through your fingernails, anchor into your toes. Try to raise the wrists so they're as high as the shoulders. And then keep all that is going on in your upper arms and rotate your palms to face up. These are the exact same arms now as downward dog and child's pose, where the upper and lower arms are in opposition with their rotation. So still working the upper arms in one way and now the lower arms in another. Look back if you need to, make sure the wrists are as high as the shoulders. Stay for a couple more breaths if you can. Good. And then go ahead and release. Come onto the little pillow of your arms and move the legs back and forth. Just to make sure we kind of get it, we're going to repeat it. So just take a few deep breaths here. And go ahead and set up the legs. Center those legs up. Feel those small toes on the floor. Make sure they're not floating in the breeze. Extend the arms back, palms down, the arms all moving in the same direction. Move the pelvis, so you're taking the tip of the tailbone into the floor. Lift your inner thighs, roll the pinky toes down, extend through your fingernails, keep the upper arms active, and then rotate elbows to fingertips so palms face up. Look forward. Expand the breath up and out as you breathe in. And go ahead and rest. Nice work. Rest your head, wave the legs back and forth. So a lot of times when we back bend, we move the torso. Now we're going to come into a back bend by moving our legs. So this is an advanced kind of, well, it's the evolution of locust pose. Eventually locust pose, the legs lift too. So now we're just going to play with locust pose where only the legs lift. So you're going to make a little prop for your forehead with your right arm crossing in front of you. So your head can rest on that little prop of your arm. We're going to anchor into the left leg. Sorry, the right leg I meant to say. And on an exhale, raise your left leg a couple inches from the floor. And rather than taking it up, think about someone grabbing your left ankle and gently pulling, because the fuller extension of the leg will create more height from the floor. Your work is just to kind of lengthen the leg from the hip out through the heel. Relaxing the right leg, using your forehead into your forearm. And then lengthen the leg back to the floor. Cross both arms, rest one cheek, bend your knees, sweep the legs back and forth. So eventually, if you can believe it, not only one leg goes up vertically, but the full expression of this pose, both legs are straight up and down. So imagine leveraging your upper body that much that you're able to bring your legs straight up in the sky. It's pretty impressive. So we'll try the other side. Your upper body, your head, your pelvis, it's all working to ground you so you can lift the leg. You're going to rest your forehead on your left forearm now. Your left leg can be heavy into the floor like an anchor. And on an exhale, start to lift the right leg from the floor. Imagine someone's pulling the foot, gently pulling the ankle. The leg is rising. Keep lifting that right inner thigh. And then on an in-breath, lower the leg. Nice work. Both legs are passive, both arms are crossed, cheek is resting. One last time, sweep the legs back and forth. Okay, we're gonna do one more prone back bend, which is bow pose. So there's a couple options. This is where we raise both, where we grab both feet at the same time. But if you're not able to, option one is to take a strap around your front ankles and connect that way. Another option is to have legs extended back, arms extended forward for a very modified bow pose. So that's also a really good option if grabbing for your feet isn't in the cards today. If you are going to grab the feet with the strap or with your hands, you want your knees to be hip distance. Bring your knees in line with your hips. Bend the knees 90 degrees. I find it very helpful to flex my feet because it gives me a better hold on those ankles. So if you flex the feet or take the toes toward the floor, you can kind of reach at the creases and have a good hold. If you're going to have legs extended back, arms extended forward, you can prep that now. And on an exhale, however you're doing this, you're going to come up. You're going to be lifting your chest. You're going to be lifting the knees from the floor, looking forward. And now in Light on Yoga, the classical kind of Bible of the Iyengar yoga method, there's two ways to practice. You can practice in a way that you're breathing really well, but you're not moving. You're kind of immobilizing yourself Even though the breath could move you, you're trying to keep yourself very still. And there's another way to practice where you let the breath coming and going rock your bow pose. Keep your knees closer than they want to be, so clamping the knees slightly. 2 more breaths. And go ahead and soften back down to the floor. I said last time with windshield wipers, but this is actually the last time. And now roll onto your left hip. So you're kind of on your left side. Take your right knee kind of at a bent knee position off to the side. And now let your right shoulder fall toward the floor. You might put something under your head if you need a little pillow. You're just going to take a twist. So your right hand is on your side waist. You're attempting to use gravity to kind of rotate the chest toward the ceiling and rotate the right shoulder down. It's a very modified revolving, reclining hand to big toe pose. And as we know, twists are really good to kind of neutralize a back bending heavy practice. They're more calming to the nervous system. Back bends can be upregulating, which we want some of, but we don't want to have too much upregulation or we will leave the practice feeling kind of jangled. And go ahead and rotate your chest back to the floor. You're just going to do it to the other side. So you're going to be adjusting onto your right hip side, stepping the left knee, bent knee off to the side, and starting to roll the left shoulder toward the floor. Rest your left hand on your side waist. You can extend the arm out to the side, but it's maybe premature to do that. So just kind of sense where you need to be with that left arm. And just take a few deep breaths, wringing the spine out. And go ahead and kind of fold yourself back to facing the floor. We're going to keep the blanket because we're coming into a few Anjaneyasana variations, which is the lunging kind of position. So we're going to kneel on the blanket now. Have your 2 blocks kind of right up ahead of you. And then we're going to have the right foot stepping forward, the left knee kneeling. And you do begin with your right heel in line with your knee and your left knee in line with your hip. Even though as we kind of progress, we start to move those shapes. So we're just going to start to wake this up. Take your hands to your hips, clamp your elbows. So your chest is lifted and spread, your shoulder blades are working for you. On your exhale, you're just going to kind of shift forward and inhale, pull back. And you'll just find your own little range of motion. It might be just a couple inches, it might be more than that or less. So just kind of see how far you can float it forward and how much you need to pull back and work with your breath. So exhale, you're leaning forward. Inhale, you're coming back. And when you exhale, that's really back bending. So make sure you're in, yeah, so Judy, I see you tilting your torso forward. So try to keep your tailbone moving in, your pelvic tilt strong, so you keep your book on your head. There, that's better. So the idea, there's a book on top of the head, you're just trying to move through space without that book falling from the crown. And that's where you have to really keep that pelvic tilt working for you, the tipping the pelvis back. Just do 3 more of these. And on the 3rd one, you're just going to hold it. So when you arrive, kind of pushing forward, just hold there. Make sure you're breathing normally. Take the tailbone deep into the soft tissue. Lift your chest. Maybe look slightly up. Try to envision that your elbows are only as wide as your shoulders. And even though you're looking up, try to give your eyes roots to the back of the head. So your eyes are really soft and passive. And take a couple breaths into the front left thigh. And on an inhale, you're going to pull back. Good work. So now we're going to work with the blocks. You might have medium height, tall height, low height. Whatever feels solid in your hands, like you're not being pushed by gravity into the floor. So I have tall blocks. You're going to curl the left toes under and extend the leg. Good. And now I want you to exhale and bend the knee. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Inhale and bend the knee. Exhale, fully extend your left leg. We often kind of underestimate in the standing lunges how important the back leg being fully extended is. So we're going to be coming into the full extension on the exhale, really stretching that left leg. Inhale, just soften or bend the knee slightly. Doesn't have to be a huge bend. It's just like you're relieving the full extension. Okay, so try not to be the turtle, which you can collapse your neck if you're not kind of using your blocks appropriately. So really push the blocks into the floor, like they're extensions of your arms. They're preserving a forward in the sunlight kind of chest position. The next time you extend the leg, keep it extended. Okay, so this might just be an attempt and it might not happen. I just want to put that out there. But you're going to see if you can bring your hands to your thigh now and help yourself come up. Wow. Amazing. Even just one hand, if that's what you got. Good. Amazing. Go ahead and place your hands back to your blocks. Place your left knee. And we're going to relieve our efforts with just a little twisting. So keep your left hand on your block. Take your right hand to your right hip. Squeeze your right knee toward midline because it's going to want to float out. So squeeze your right knee toward midline. Another way to say that is anchor into your inner right foot. Push down into your left block and turn your chest to the right. Three exhales, just wring the spine out. Keep pinning the right knee in. These look great. Last exhale and following inhale, just turning back. You're going to help yourself into child's pose. Knees step wide, feet together. If your arms need a rest, don't worry about active arms. You might bend your elbows and stack your fists. Make a little prop for your forehead if the floor is too far away. We'll stay for 5 or 6 breaths. So you're going to gently be coming out of the pose and setting up for side 2 of the Anjaneyasana sequence. So this time, right knee is kneeling, left foot is stepping forward, left heel in line with left knee, right knee in line with left hip. If you feel wobbly here, you can cross your right shin toward the left side of the mat. It sometimes creates a little bit more stability. All right, we'll take the hands to the hips, squeeze the elbows in. Begin with your soft exhale, shifting your weight forward, but not tilting the torso. And inhale, gently pulling back. So another way to think about it is if your pelvic bowl is full of liquid, you don't want it sloshing out the front rim as you float forward. So it requires more pelvic tilt action the farther you move into this. So feel the right hip flexor yawning open as you exhale. Three more of those and you're going to land on that third one. So here's where we stay. When you're shifting forward, you're going to hold it there. Tighten up those elbows, kind of magnetize them toward each other. coil the inner shoulder blades toward the chest. Take the tip of the tailbone really toward the front body. Look slightly up. Keep the eyes soft. Lift your heart. Move the flesh of the shoulders from front to back. Soften your jaw. After this exhale, inhale to pull back. And now we're going to go find those blocks to use them as extensions of our arms to begin to work with the right leg extending more fully. So once you have the blocks kind of evenly spaced around your left foot, whatever height you're using, curl the right toes under and begin to extend the right leg. Once you extend the right leg, try to see that your left knee is still on top of your ankle, that you didn't kind of distort your pose that way. So inhale, you're going to soften the knee. Exhale, really try to fully extend the leg so the heel magnetizes toward the floor, the kneecap is locked into place. It's not a flaccid knee. You're feeling probably your calf muscle, maybe your hamstring. Start to elongate. Three more extensions on exhalations. You guys look awesome. Really good. And on that third exhalation, you're going to hold. And this is where you might attempt to bring your hands onto your thigh and bring your torso up. Maybe one hand comes up, maybe your torso comes halfway up. Just do what you can. Keep that back leg extended. And then begin to come back down and lower the knee. We're going to keep our right hand on the block, taking that kind of relieving twist, left hand to the hip, and then pushing into your block, start to turn your chest to the left. Squeeze the left knee toward midline. Try to move your right shoulder blade toward the chest. Roll your left shoulder back. Really nicely moving into the twist on exhalations. We'll take three more. And then you can inhale, turning back to face the floor, and you're going to help yourself into child's pose. Taking your knees nice and wide, feet together, creating head support with your own hands or fists or the block. Maybe your head comes to the floor easily. Take the tip of the tailbone, point it toward the floor. Okay. So now we're going to work with that kneeling blanket, but you're going to turn 90 degrees for camel pose. So just make sure that you have, first of all, you don't need a blanket for camel pose, but if you're going to use one because you're a little sensitive to the shins or whatever on the ground, then make sure you're using it from your knees all the way to the toes. Otherwise, it's appropriate to also all the way to the ankles. So just as long as your knees to your ankles are even, that's kind of the idea. So blocks are going to be positioned kind of toward the back of the mat. They're going to be there for the hands in a little bit. And they're on their highest setting. And just like hero pose and a lot of the prone back bends we've done today, I want you to bring awareness to your small toes, kind of finding the floor, and your outer shins rotating down. We're really capitalizing on our surface area here. And then the hands are going to come to the hips. Take your thumbs and just kind of push your tailbone into the body, adjusting the pelvis back, posterior tilt, clamp your elbows. We're just going to do a few with the breath with our hands right here. So on your exhale, arch back, inhale, pull up. Exhale, arch back, inhale, pull up. So try to keep that idea that you have a big starchy collar on your neck and you're trying to keep the back of the neck long. You're not collapsing at the neck. That's very important for this pose. At the very final moment of the pose, we do let the head fall back. But if we start there, we don't usually tap into mobility down below. Okay, so let's do 4 more. Exhaling back, keep the elbows squeezing in. Inhale up. And then the next time you come up, just reach back and see that the blocks are in a good position for you. So you want your hands slightly back. You want to make sure the blocks are high enough. If they are too far away, then you're going to work with your hands on your hips because you want to really feel spacious in this pose, and all of our back bends we do. So the idea is to really get the hip flexors open. You might have the hips pull forward to get into the pose, but eventually we want the hips to be right on top of the knees. Some people have the hips retreat back, so just kind of notice where your hips are in space. It's okay if they move to get into the pose, but try to align them above the knees once you're holding the pose. Okay, so before we grab for those blocks, just clasp your hands, interlock your hands, roll your shoulders back. So you're feeling the flesh of the chest and the shoulders kind of moving up and over and down the back side. Extend your arms fully like you're holding a 20-pound block in your palms. And then start to take the hands low. Remember that thick collar on your neck. Keep your eyes soft, small toes down. Keep arching back. And when you sense you're close to the blocks, try to separate the hands onto it, probably fingertips for most of us, onto the blocks. And then you're going to refine the pose and hold it for 5 breaths. So if your hips are behind the knees, try to move them forward. If you've collapsed your neck, try to recover the lengthened neck. Keep your eyes soft. And then to come out, you want to use a strong inhalation. Come out and then exhale. You might sit on your heels or you might need to do something different like child's pose. But just take a couple moments recovering. We are going to do it one more time, so it's important that you feel like you can kind of catch your breath and wait out any fatigue or any response in the body before we come into our second attempt. So with the fingertips on the blocks, I like to have my palms facing forward because it helps encourage the rotation of the shoulders. So you might try a palm forward, kind of fingertip resting position. And if you're using your hands to your back, you can press your palms either to your buttocks or your lower back or your sacrum, and that'll give you the same effect in the shoulders. So depending on where you're working. So first, just make sure you're pressing your small toes down. Your outer shins are trying to work their way down. Tailbone is already moving into the body. Hip flexors are already opening a little bit. Starting with the clasp, extending the arms fully. Coil the shoulder blades in rather than jamming them together. Coil the inner tips forward. Take your gaze up to kind of match the direction of the spine. Keep lengthening down with those hands up with the chest. They're working kind of in harmony here. And then when you sense you're close to the blocks, you'll separate the hands, palms forward, rotate the flesh of the arms, the shoulders, lift your heart. Roll the inner thighs back, and then maybe let the head fall. Inhale to come up. Exhale, resting either in Vajrasana, which is sitting on the heels, it's a modified hero, or child's pose. Okay, so now we're going to start to do some twists, but we're going to do it from our hero pose. So if you know you need to modify hero, you're going to either prop it up the way that makes it work for you, or you can take a cross-legged position if you really need to modify. But you're going to set yourself up with support for the shins. You want something supporting your sitting bones. And this is the same position as Backasana. So what we did earlier on our front side, where the knees are together, the feet are wider than the knees, it's the W shape. So start with your hands just pushing into the soles of your feet. Invite the shoulders back, the tailbone in, the skull above the spine. And the hands pressing down on the feet is really imprinting kind of the foundation of the lower half of the body here. So just kind of encouraging that. And then you'll keep that nice amount of foundation. Inhale, raise the arms. Sorry, before we do that, because you're in hero, you're higher from the floor. So put a block behind you so that your hand, when we twist, has somewhere to go. So you don't feel like you're reaching down to the floor and distorting everything to touch the floor. So have a block right behind you, close to your body. Inhale, raise the arms. Exhale, you're going to take left hand onto right thigh, right hand onto your block. You might notice the block needs to become higher, so make sure to adjust so that you can really keep your torso upright. We're going to start with the left palm facing the thigh first. And then to get some of that upper kind of action of rotation going, flip to the back of your hand, which can help you get some of that congestion of the left armpit chest cleared up. You can bring that area kind of more forward and around. And then you're going to finish looking over your right shoulder. Keep your eyes relaxed. After an exhale, you'll inhale to raise the arms and come back to center. And now we'll go to the other side. So exhale, right hand to left thigh, palm down, right hand behind you. Sorry, left hand behind you, I'm sorry. Neutral, chin above chest for now. We don't want to move the head until we really know that the twist has gotten that far. Now you can flip to the back of the hand and just kind of encourage the chest to rotate around. And then turning the head and looking over the left shoulder. Soft eyes. After an exhalation, inhale to raise the arms. And exhale to lower the arms. And then I'm going to have you find your way into downward dog. You're going to hold it for 6 to 8 breaths. Always a good idea after hero pose to take some sort of leg extension. Downward dog is a good one. So is Dandasana, Paschimottanasana. Those are also very good. So don't try to bring the heels down. Think about your heels having little wedge heels under them or stilettos. So you're not trying to force the heels down, just try to find a straight leg. About 3 more breaths. And after this exhale, begin to lower your knees. And then you're going to cross your ankles. And then once you've crossed your ankles, you can sit back on your butt and extend your legs forward. It's okay if that transition doesn't work for you. It's just a nice way to come from table to seated. But we're going to kind of slide onto the mat so that we can have enough space behind us for bridge pose. So once you have your legs in front of you, feel free to find your way down. And then we don't really want to blanket the head for a bridge pose. So Try to get away without a blanket. Tilt your chin toward your chest and walk your heels in toward your sitting bones. Make sure once you've placed your heels that your toes are in line with your heels. And then grab the edges of your mat in a way that your arms are fully extended. I usually end up taking my fingers under my mat so that I can kind of rock my outer upper arms down and lift my shoulder blades up to my chest. And you're kind of grabbing the mat to keep your arms a little bit more engaged, straight, grounded, and powerful. So really kind of pull your mat. I'm pulling my mat kind of toward the direction of my feet. Take a moment to move your pelvis in a way that you're closing the gap between your lower back and the floor. So same posterior tilt. Inhale here. On your exhale, step into your feet and lift your hips. Use those arms. Use the power of your legs and feet to soften the buttocks. Every time you breathe in, let your chest rise. And every time you breathe out, snuggle your chin into your chest. Keep stepping into big toes and rolling your inner thighs down. Use the power of the arms, the power of the legs, the power of the pelvic tilt. And then go ahead and walk your spine down. Beautiful. Okay. So now turn on your mat. This is the last thing we're going to do before Shavasana. Turn on your mat so that the length of the mat is running with your wingspan, your shoulders and your arms. We're going to come into belly turning pose, which is a twist. It's also an abdominal strengthener. And in the very same way, you're going to use your mat by grabbing it and kind of pulling the hands apart. So you're attempting to line yourself up with your shoulders and your wrists on that same edge of your mat. We want our arms level with our shoulders, not above. So you're kind of looking like a letter T. Once you're grabbing your mat, lift your legs one at a time. We're going to be exhaling to the left, halfway to the left, and then the other half of the exhale pulling up toward the arm. And then down and back over. Exhale to the right, halfway, kind of moving in that L shape, and halfway up. Inhale back, down and over. Move with your breath, exhaling into the belly turning. And inhaling out of it. And the next time you come to center, straighten your legs. Exhale halfway to the left, and then the other halfway up toward the arm line. Then bend your knees and come out of it. So eventually we come out of it with straight legs, not today. Go back to extending the legs up. Go halfway over to the right, halfway up. Bend your knees, and then down and over. Okay, let's do it once more to each side. Take the legs up, halfway to the left, halfway up toward the arm line. Bend the knees, down and over. Last one. Up, over to the right, up toward the arm line, and then inhale, bend the knees, and come to center. And you can let go of the mat. You can turn 90 degrees. You might place something under your head. But then come into reclining child's pose, grabbing onto your shins or thighs. Tilting your chin toward your chest. Soothing the nervous system with this singular curve of the spine, quieting forward bend. With the thighs close, start to separate the knees. Just hold it there and breathe into the groins. Breathe your belly nice and soft with the arms open. You can have the shoulders be more restful on the floor. And then keep your knees wide and either grab for the ankles or the big toes and start to rock, gently massaging the sacrum from side to side. Little playful movement here. Your groins might also really enjoy this repetition of being able to extend and repeat that. And then keep holding the shins or the toes and attempt to stack your shins in a vertical way. Hanging on those ankles or those big toes, just kind of pull down and sense your tops of your thighs are moving toward the floor. Just hold for a few breaths, chin toward chest. Go ahead and bring the heels together, join the knees, step the feet down, and anything else that needs to move or be addressed here physically, take care of that, and then start to set up for Shavasana. We have a 4-minute Shavasana today. A little support behind the knees can be really nice on back bending practices, very soothing for the back. It could be a bolster, it could be a rolled blanket. Make sure your head is propped if needed, that your chin is not higher than your forehead. And take a moment to elongate the trunk and the legs and the flesh of the buttocks. Also to spread across the shoulders, palms turned up. The feet wider than the hips. And once you feel like you've set yourself in the alignment of the pose, start to come into that surrendered state. When we're in balance, we're balancing aspects of effort and ease. So trust that you've dedicated yourself to the effort of setting up this pose, and now just be in the pose with ease, with surrender. Releasing the flesh of your face from the hairline all the way to the chin. If your jaw is set in any way, slacken your jaw. Release the tongue all the way to its root. Relax any effort still held in the muscles around the eyes and mouth. A lot of our tensions that we hold are either in or surrounding the sense organs. Paying a lot of attention to the face because many of the sense organs are there. Allowing your ears to remain receptive as the other sense organs start to withdraw. Turning your attention over to your breath, as if you're watching it from afar, not in any way trying to control the breath. without disturbing your mental state, without agitating the body. See if you can draw some deeper breaths in. And slightly extend the exhale as well, emptying more breath than you were before. Just let the qualities of smoothness and steadiness be the dominant qualities to your breathing. Find your way back to automatic breathing. Begin to move your fingers and toes. Move your head. Then start to bend knees and elbows. Maybe taking the hands onto your belly or chest. And then help yourself gently to one side. And when you get there, just stay for a few moments, not in any rush. Your eyes might open here, they might not. And then just take your hands to the floor and pressing into the floor, use that to help you come up. And when you're upright and seated, put yourself back in the same position you started in an hour ago, joining the hands in front of the heart, lifting the corners of the mouth. Notice how the chest forward is naturally kind of mood lifting, energizing. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. So gentle drop-in yoga starts this Wednesday. Anybody is welcome, 10 to 11. And links, recorded links are also available if you can't make the time. So there's always that. If you need a third practice in your week, join me. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon, I hope.